Joining me now is writer and broadcaster Esther Krakue. Esther, great to have you back. Now, we've spoken several times about the idea of Meghan Markle entering into politics, and with California Senator Dianne Feinstein passing away, talk has already started that Meghan is in the running. Is that a real possibility or just a flight of fancy?
Well, it's certainly a possibility in American politics. Stranger things have happened. And obviously in America, name recognition is a very powerful tool when it does come to politics. Look, a major Democratic donor has actually come out and said that Meghan's name has been in the running for a long time. Now, the decision for who the mantle will pass to following Dianne Feinstein's death is obviously going to be on Governor Gavin Newsom, and he's going to choose who's going to effectively finish out the 13 months left of her term. It's been reported that Meghan and Harry had an hour-long conversation with Governor Newsom, but he decided to go with someone else. Ultimately, we know that Meghan has always been quite politically active, even before she entered the royal family, and I could probably prescribe all her political beliefs on the back of a stamp. But the reality is, it's not far-fetched to assume that she would eye, a political career at some point in the future. Now, when in the future is actually the question here, because she still does have very young children, and she might want to focus more on raising them as opposed to entering politics. But, even Michelle Obama, who was the former First Lady of the US, she's always been thrown in the mix as a political hopeful. So someone like Meghan Markle, who holds very strong views, who's very, adamant that she wants to see more women in positions of power, that's not something that I would really be surprised if she actually chose to pursue that.
Now, a story that has been reported but won't quite go away alleges that Harry and Meghan have attempted to gag teachers and students as young as 5 from making future comments about a Sussexes visit to a school in 2021. I feel like it's very thin-skinned, and obviously if Meghan does go into politics, she won't have the luxury of gagging anyone in the public. Why would the Sussexes attempt something like this? I mean, the perception was only going to be poor, wasn't it?
I mean, this is one of those things that really highlights their need to kind of control the narrative around them. We obviously know that in the royal family, they felt like they didn't have the protection of the firm in terms of influencing the conversation about them, leaking stories to the media, as they claimed, that were unfavorable to them. So their image has been something that they've really tried to curate as accurately as possible. I have heard rumors that actually the gag order was upon a recommendation of a member of their team. So it didn't actually come from them. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's something that they went on board with. This visit that they did made to the school in Harlem in 2021. You could have children saying all sorts of things that might not be particularly favorable. They might say she didn't smell very nice, or she wasn't very polite, or whatever. And obviously, to have that swirling in the media, particularly at the time that they did conduct this visit, might not have been particularly opportune for them. So I'm not surprised that something like this will happen. But you're absolutely right. If Meghan were to enter the spotlight in a different way in the political arena, she wouldn't have the comfort or the backing of being able to gag everyone. Politics in the US or anywhere, but particularly in the US, is blood sport. People run campaigns based on a gaffe you made 20 years ago. And there's more than enough content for people that would want to put out negative press coverage about Meghan Markle. I mean, I'm pretty sure there are staff members in the royal family that won't have a lot of positive things to say about her. But I think what this really does highlight is the fact that the Sussexes are so adamant that they want to curate their own public image. And unfortunately, the more they seem to do that, the more they actually fail. Many people don't understand, but actually the royal family and their coverage of Prince Harry over the years, even from his Nazi costume to all the gaffes he's made, they really actually saved his public image, because ever since he's left and he's been completely in charge of his image alongside his wife Meghan Markle, it's completely tanked. And it just shows that sometimes actually having the protection of people you may not always agree with is a blessing more than a curse.
Hear, hear. Now, more commentary this week on the long-running furor between Harry and the royal family. While it appears that reconciliation is the best way to mitigate the risk, it appears that stubbornness still seems to be the order of the day. Where are we up to?
So there have been reports that King Charles is saying that his long-standing feud with the Sussexes is unsustainable for the monarchy. It's unsustainable for the firm's brand, because ultimately King Charles is seen as this figure of unity. He is the monarch here in Britain, and it doesn't sound very unified when you're basically estranged from your son and his wife. But the reality is, apparently the Duke of Sussex has been insisting on a personal private apology from King Charles and William, which both are saying they're very reluctant to give. It's very unlikely that they will ever give an apology, particularly to Harry or even his wife. And the reality is, ultimately, King Charles has to realize that the public understands what's going on. They're on side. Prince Harry has had, many opportunities to reveal his side of the story. And every time he's done that, his opinion polls have tanked. Many people are actually sympathetic to the king, that in his old age, he still has to deal with whatever, fallback comes from the Sussexes moaning about their time in the royal family. I've often predicted that this feud is just going to calcify and become the status quo.
Now, onto Archie and Lilibet, and we don't see very much of them, and that's totally fine. They're very little, and that's their parents' decision. Absolutely no criticism from me. However, Meghan may have slipped that the kids might be making their public debut soon. What's going on?
Yeah, so we've heard reports from a board member for the Invictus Games that the children could actually make an appearance at the 2025 Invictus Games. Apparently, Meghan is very keen to teach her kids how to ski, which is a bit of a niche hobby. And she has been ruminating over the potential of getting them involved in the Invictus Games in 2025 and teaching them how to ski then, which would effectively be their first public engagement. Now, what I do find strange is the fact that Harry and Meghan insisted on giving their children titles to the royal family, even though they're both estranged from the institution and they have made very vocal criticisms of the institution. Why would you insist on giving your children the titles if you don't even want to exist in it? I found that very strange and quite opportunistic. But I'm sure in typical Sussex fashion, they will find the best moment to reveal their children to the public and obviously curate their image alongside them. I've often said, and I still maintain, that the biggest losers in this whole saga has been the children. They don't really know an entire half of their family. Meghan doesn't really have much family to speak of other than her mother. And so they're the ones that are being isolated and effectively losing out on this sort of this feud between the Sussexes and the royal family. But nonetheless, I do believe that their parents will find the opportune moment to expose them to the public that will, I suppose, benefit them and their brand as well.
Now, it's reported this week that Prince George could actually receive a new name as king. Why is this, and is that likely to happen?
So it is unlikely to happen, but it's due to a long-standing tradition of sort of British monarchs taking on a different name, which is known as their regnal name, when they actually ascend the throne. It is a tradition that was effectively stopped by Queen Elizabeth, who didn't see the need to sort of create a fuss or further complicate matters by choosing an entirely different name. Obviously, the British royal family has become more open to the public over the last couple of centuries, really. And so you want to keep that name recognition and familiarity with the public. I think it would be a bit odd if Prince George actually chose to change his name. I mean, one of the options he could change his regnal name to would be Louis, which is his brother, which would be weird. Because most of the public wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But the reality is, it's a tradition that, while long-standing, has effectively ceased to exist since the late Queen Elizabeth. So I don't think that's something that's going to materialize in the future. But it is an option, and it's a good piece of royal history.
Love it. Thank you so much, Esther Krakue. As always, thank you for joining us.